Welcome to 60 Skills. What is Nirvana? After a brief interlude of the last few months of trying to do something pop culture and failing, I'm going to go back to my old habit of simply addressing more serious esoteric issues, particularly in regards to how you do it. So what is Nirvana? Well, that's a good question. The saints have been arguing over this for millennia, probably for much longer than the written word existed, maybe even before we were actually people. That said, the only thing that most people can seem to agree upon when it comes to this topic is Nirvana can be best defined as that which cannot be positively defined. It is something that is not this or is not that. Now, from a standpoint of physics, this makes sense. If you go to a place that's truly beyond spatial reasoning, beyond energy and emotion, and beyond conventional forms and parameters of perception, well, that's how human beings define things, by their shape, their color, their size, how they make us feel, what they do. So if you go to a place that's beyond all of this, by definition, this is something you can't define. And this is important. That true state of enlightenment, when you do that hop, skip, and a jump over the void and break through to this thing on the other side, as some would say, getting sucked up into light, because we really don't have a better way to describe it than that. But it's not really light either, because again, you can't define it the way you define anything else. That's that state of true mind, the Tao, God, Nirvana, you name it. That's it. That's what it is. You're not really enlightened until you've actually had that experience. Now, you can be empowered by having access to Akasha, going through the Kundalini, going through Heart Center Awakening, all these other kinds of things, and they're great. But enlightenment really only happens when you're brought up into that light. Now, what do I mean by it can't be defined? Well, let's talk about that. We call it light, but most people agree it's not really light. It has no spatial boundaries like this living crystal device. It has no energy, so it doesn't generate feeling or sensation or emotion. Again, there's no movement involved, because without spatial constraints, how can you have movement? You don't really have color, because that's a thing that can be defined at a mental level, and that really doesn't exist there either. So, Nirvana, God, the true Tao, complete enlightenment, is that thing that cannot be defined. And that's where all the trouble starts. To be blunt, I think this state is oversold. It is divinely, pun intended, important to people when it happens. That said, what it represents isn't something we can really conceptualize or even describe in the here and now. Now, that said, because we can't really define it very clearly, what's the easiest way to have that experience? Well, that's where you're in luck. Everybody I know who succeeded in reaching out and touching this state had a few things in common. One, their body was in a pretty good working order. I'm not saying six-pack abs or anything like this, but these were not people with serious illnesses. Two, they were almost always in a tightly enclosed space that had been packed with a lot of energy over a long period of time, with a great deal of intensity. Okay. Three, and if this is important, if you're a guy, ladies, I don't know what the parallel is for you. I'm not one of you. All of the men that I talked to who went through this experience had avoided ejaculation for quite a long period of time. About 3 weeks seems to be the minimum. So, all right, this is 60 Skills. We like talking about the physics of how to do something. So let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, you're in shape so your body can move energy effectively. You've done a lot of body training. Everything's really tightly put together so you can project a lot of subtle energy around you. 2, you've packed the space you're in with large amounts of this energy. Because when enough subtle energy manifests in a space around you, an interesting side effect of that is your mind neutralizes and shuts off. Another fancy way of stating this is the matrices between your mental, astral, and vital body thins out a whole lot, and your consciousness can pop out. Now, because this place is packed full of energy on a massive scale, now you've got the fuel for the rocket. So if you do all that and project up, 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 guess what happens? You drop right into that state. Now, I'm sure there are many other ways to do this. The tree method, as utilized by the Buddha, is another way of doing this, of thinning out your mental state enough so that you can project upwards. And keep in mind, the Buddha led a very austere lifestyle when this happened and when he was younger. This was a well put together guy. He was also from the warrior class, which meant he had all the body training that he needed in order to project large amounts of energy. So if you're looking to enter one of those nirvanic states, I would suggest hammering down on your ligament and tendon training, being in good physical condition, saving up a heaping load of sexual energy, performing your meditations in a tightly enclosed space made out of hardened material. About the width of your arms is just about perfect. And it needs to be not wood, by the way, but stone or metal. A walk-in closet tends to work exceptionally well in a modern era. Pack that space full of esoteric, say astral energy, as much as you can for a couple weeks in a row. Go into an intense practice period. Work on your out-of-body projection while you're doing it. And with just a little bit of luck, you can reach nirvana too. I've seen students do this routinely within 18 months. And I know that's heresy in a lot of circles, but I've seen it happen. It's a thing. They were all very special people who work really hard, but it can in fact be done if you have access to the right tools. So I hope you enjoyed today's lecture. And in the meantime, check out all the other materials at SixtySkills.com. Train hard and be well.